Well, hello chaps, it's Commodore Graham here, and welcome to a special video showcasing the Kuda shaders mod, or rather the Kuda shader pack running on the Minecraft shaders mod through Optifine. Now, as you can probably see, it's kind of pretty. This is basically the nicest looking shader pack I have seen as yet. I haven't exhaustively tried, just all the shader packs that exist in the whole of the cosmos, but I have tried, what have I tried? Silda's Vibrant shaders. They're pretty nice too, and they run about the same as this, but they don't look as nice. And also Sonic Ether's Unbelievable shaders. That's the actual name. I'm not just saying myself that they are unbelievable. Which actually, in my opinion, don't look as nice as this, and tank your frame rate a hell of a lot. So, let's just for a moment, hopefully this won't crash anything. Let's for a moment just go back to how Minecraft usually looks. This may take it out. There we go. It can take a while to load things up. So here we go. Good old ordinary Minecraft. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But then, of course, you have... Give it a moment. Give it a moment. It's thinking. Oh god, we got dead air here. This is terrible. How will I survive? Here we go. Then you have this. And I only started using this shader pack yesterday. And I'm finding it really enhances my experience of Minecraft quite... Oh, excuse the slight stutter there. I'm not sure I've got everything set up exactly in the best possible way. What we got? Right, we're going over 60 frames per second, so I think that the VSync isn't working. That's an issue that I'll talk about presently. So, how I installed this, in short, and I will show you exactly how to do it later in this video, is I installed the Curse client, for which I guess you'll need a Curse account. That's fine. Install the Curse client, create a custom profile, which basically has nothing except Forge mod loader. No mods added or anything. Then you just drop the right version of Optifine in the mods folder, and Optifine for 1.11.2 of Minecraft has shader support built in. Oh wait, let's have a look at this. Have you seen this? Have you seen how crazy this looks? It's very interesting in that obviously this is not real. Obviously it's Minecraft, still made of blocks and stuff, but there's something about having realistic looking lighting that makes you feel far more like you're in a real environment. It's really immersive. Hold on, I'll turn off this if you press F1, so you turn off the hood, it's even more immersive. It's kind of amazing. So, is there anything else to show off? Right. There are various different settings here. So let's go through them. There's the if you go into the shader options, I've got custom settings which I'm about to mess up for your benefit. If you put it on low, to get the best frame rate you possibly can, you can see the water doesn't look nearly as fancy. Still looks kind of nice, but And just generally, the lighting still looks pretty swish and considerably nicer than normal Minecraft. But yeah, it no longer looks anywhere near as real. At the other end of the spectrum, we have cinematic, which is just insane. So here there's, you know, we have motion blur, we have the really fancy water. You can maybe see at the corners of the screen. Yeah, we've got what's it called? Chromatic aberration. There's film grain as well, which you can't see as well since it's so bright. If I go into the shade, maybe you'll be able to see it, or maybe it won't turn out too well in a YouTube video. Maybe if I do this. Yeah, on that out of focus tree there, maybe you can see the film grain. And that's another thing, depth of field, which is pretty nice. Now, when you've got it on cinematic mode, it has all the bells and whistles turned on and your frame rate won't be so good. See, I'm actually below 30 frames per second on my rig here, which is an i5 2500K with a GTX 960. So I don't have an amazing rig, but the thing is with the motion blur, you don't really look. It looks smooth as hell. Everything just looks really smooth. Because the motion blur essentially hides the stuttering that's happening because of the frame rate being lowered. The only thing that I will say is if you're getting a lower frame rate, then the controls feel slightly more sluggish. I mean, it's still fine. This may or may not bother you. You may or may not even notice it. I'm not sure. But the settings that I had were somewhere in between. I think I had it on high, but then reduced the shadow resolution, reduced the shadow distance. What else did I do? I put depth of field on, motion blur on, distance blur, yes. Parallax occlusion mapping, that's already on. Whatever the hell that does. Environment, well, what we got? We got God rays, rain puddles, heat wave. A lot of this stuff might... Hold on, we might be able to see the God rays if I get myself behind a tree. Yeah. So we got the pretty God rays going on. You know, if you want to take a portrait of a sheep with everything else thrown out of focus, you can do that. It's great. That is, sheep's looking very aesthetic. And what else did I do? Go back into shader options, post-process. Yeah, all of these things were off. Tone mapping. Oh, right, yeah, the saturation at 1.5, that seems to be the best compromise. Any more than that, the colours get sort of too crazy. Especially at night when things are lit by torchlight, it sort of looks disgustingly orange if you have the saturation any higher. So this is kind of a decent compromise. Obviously, you can see my frame rate has gone up quite a bit from what it was when I was using the cinematic mode. It's still not. I'm still not getting 60 frames per second, but whoops-a daisy. But that's not too bad. Again, because of the motion blur. Now, I really like how. You may not like this. I really like the distance blur. So when things are way off in the distance, they have some kind of blur, whether you're focused on them or not. Now, I think this looks really, really nice. It sort of makes the world seem a bit less like it just stops abruptly where your chunk loading boundary is. Because, I mean, I'm just at... What am I? I'm just rendering 12 chunks away from me. So, I don't know. It just... It kind of makes it look a bit more like the world goes on forever. Just a sec. Let's cap my frame rate at 60. Not that I'll be reaching it most of the time. So, I mean, you may see a tiny bit of stuttering when I'm like strafing backwards and forwards. But when I'm turning, the motion blur just makes everything look utterly smooth. It's so good. I know some people really don't like motion blur. But that's up to you. You can turn on and off any features that you would like. Okay, so now I'm going to pause the game and show you my... Wait, can I show you my actual monitor? Is there anything on here I don't want you to see? Yes, I can. I'm going to show you how I did this. Now, first, you need to make yourself a Curse account if you don't already have one, and get the Curse client if you don't already have it. Okay. So if you go to the Curse website, you can register here, go through all that process, download the client, and install it. I'm sure you can manage to do that without me going through the minutiae of the steps involved. And then you have here your Curse client. Now, all I did, you can see here, this is the profile that I'm using in order to install Optifine. It's just like an easy way of going about it. So you just create custom profile. There are other ways of installing Optifine, by the way, or indeed of installing the shaders mod. This is just a very easy way to do it. So let's see. Let's just call this demo profile. Well, I'm going to be deleting it when we're finished with the video anyway, so it doesn't matter. Select version 1.11.2 as of the time of making this video for Minecraft. And then with Forge Mod Loader, I just selected the newest, which is, I guess it's a beta, because, or beta version if you're in the States. But it seems to be running fine. So there we go. Demo profile created. And can I actually run this at the same time as my other instance of Minecraft? I'm not sure actually, but it doesn't actually matter for the purposes of doing this. Now, what you want is the... Where's it at? So if you just Google... Whoops. Kuda Minecraft shader. Where did I get it from? Go to any of these. I'm trying to go to the same website I used. Was it Minecraft 6 or was it this one? Any of these will probably send you to the same place. So, yeah, I think it was probably Minecraft 6. If you scroll down, there will be links. And this is the newest version of the, as it says here, of the Kuda shaders mod. You go to that, it sends you to, you know, an ad fly link. Skip the ad when it lets you, and that you need to go through a process where you agree to certain things before you use the shaders mod. Basically, not to steal the work and claim that it's your own. So once you've downloaded that, also go to Where's this? Go to Optifine, downloads, and then just grab the newest version for 1.11.2, which you will also find. You'll also find sends you to an AdFly link. Just do the same thing. You don't have to agree to any conditions for Optifine. Now, I have now that I have both of those, I've got them here just in my Minecraft folder. So here, that's where I put Optifine. It doesn't matter where you put it. And I've got whatever shader packs I have here. So, how you actually do this, if I go back to the demo profile, see these this ellipsis here, these 3 dots. Go to Open Folder, and there's the mods folder. So all you do is grab your Optifine version that you have here, and copy and paste it into the mods folder. So now you have basically vanilla Minecraft, but with one mod, that being Optifine. So hopefully that's going to be okay for playing on vanilla servers and so forth. It certainly is for the server that I play on. And then, if I go back into Minecraft, what you do is go to Options, Video Settings, Shaders, and click on Shaders folder down here. Now, I have to make this visible to you again, my display. Okay, hopefully that worked. So, by clicking that button, I've opened my shader packs folder, rather. And all you do is grab the Kuda shaders that you downloaded earlier, just the zip file. You don't need to extract anything. Same with the Optifine file. You just pop the zip file in your mods folder. But here, in the shader packs folder that's just open, you just copy and paste your Kuda shaders zip file. And when you do that, Kuda shaders should show up in-game as an option. Whoa, wait a minute, you're not seeing what I'm seeing, or are you? Just making sure here. Excuse the confusion. Right, yeah, the Kuda shaders should show up as an option immediately. You don't need to restart the game or anything like that. And then you can just do whatever you like with the shader options. So there's, like I said, there's various profiles that set the different variables for the shader in different ways for you. Low, medium, high, which I'm currently using a customized version of high, I guess. Ultra, and cinematic, that has everything, including, you know, film grain, chromatic aberration, just all the things. But if I go through the actual effects, the actual different shaders in the shader pack, if you go into shadows here, so things that will affect your frame rate versus like how it all looks. So the shadow map resolution, dropping that and dropping the shadow distance to the minimum value will help your frame rate almost certainly quite a lot, because in any given game, the resolution of the shadows and how far away shadows are drawn makes a big difference to how hard it is on your graphics card. Soft shadows, again, I don't know how much of a difference this makes, whether you have it turned on or off, but it basically stops the shadows being so blocky, especially if you've got the shadow map resolution turned down to, say, 512 like I do. There's the smallest shadow distance that you can get. Here's an interesting one. Screen space ambient occlusion. What this does is stops things looking too flat in the shadows, essentially. I'm not going to go into a description of ambient occlusion right here, if we turn it on, we might be able to just go into the game and have a look at the effect it has. So if I go into the shadows, hopefully it's actually working. So what it is at the edge. This is working, right? I think it is. At the edge of blocks, like at the corners here, it puts some gentle shadowing, just so that things look more real and 3D, even though you're in the shade, and there are no shadows cast by the sun to you know, make things look a little more real. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully I mean, you know, you are likely to know what ambient occlusion is anyway. You'll use it in lots of other games. But if I go back into the shaders menu, shader options. So, and hopefully ambient occlusion was actually working there. I'm not 100% certain that it was. I certainly had it working earlier. Wait. We may be able to see the effect here. If I turn it on, and done. It's hard to see since the game's grayed out, actually. But anyway, we're turning it off for now. It's, generally speaking, ambient occlusion is pretty taxing on your graphics card. If you've got an amazing rig, just turn everything on and I'm sure you'll be fine. So if we put it on cinematic and then go back in here, whoops. Yeah, we'll find that ambient occlusion is actually on by default. So if the ambient occlusion isn't working properly now, it never will be. But I think it is. Anyway, to get back to the various options that are available to you, there's bloom, which is pretty. I found on my rig it reduced my frame rate by about like 8 or 10 frames though. This may or may not matter to you, depending on whether you prefer it to look pretty or you prefer to have a higher frame rate, or maybe your system's just amazing and you don't need to worry about it. There's depth of field here, which just, you know, when you're focusing on something, when you're focusing on something close, things that are far away get out of focus. When you're focusing on something far away, things that are close to you get out of focus. It's just, I don't know, camera lens effect, I guess. Distance blur, which I pointed out earlier, which makes things look a little more indistinct in the distance, makes them look a little softer and prettier. As you can see, you need depth of field to be enabled for that to work. The motion blur, that's very important if your frame rate is not quite as high as you'd like it to be, because it really makes things a lot smoother. Anamorphic lens, not really sure what that does. It's probably some kind of lens distortion that makes things look more cinematic. Shaking camera. Trying to see what shaking camera does, to be honest. Oh yeah. Yeah, things are moving backwards and forwards a little. I guess that's what it is. It's barely perceptible. What else? Jitter, this is just something that happens in the end, so we're not going to be able to see that right now in this brand new world that I've started. But that's okay, go and look at it for yourself. I'm sure it will be an exciting adventure. Now then, environment-wise, there are various things like refraction in the water and water caustics, which are essentially what make the water look great. God rays, you can turn those on or off. Rain puddles and reflections are fantastic. Again, you can't see it here, but when it rains, what happens is you get realistic puddles forming on the landscape, and they start reflecting the ambient light and reflecting whatever else is around, and it just looks great, trust me, and it's extremely immersive to have that going on whilst you whilst it's raining, especially in a thunderstorm. Heat wave, this is something that only happens in the nether. This looks amazing. By the way, the nether looks great with this shader pack. Like the fog in the nether looks fantastic, and there's in the distance a sort of heat shimmer as well, which you are bound to love. Windy terrain. I think what this does, I'm guessing. Let's check. Yeah, it determines whether or not the tree leaves and grass wave back and forth in the breeze. I'm not certain how much this affects your frame rate one way or the other, but it's so nice having them waving backwards and forwards that personally I would never turn it off. Where are we? There we go. Cirrus clouds, so I don't know, just nice looking clouds in the sky. That's basically it. I think fog blur, I think this gets turned off by distance blur. Let's have a look at this. Distance blur. Motion blur. Oh no, it's depth of field that stops fog blur from happening. Okay, so you could try that as well. As a matter of fact, let's try that out. Let's turn off depth of field and distance blur. Go into environment, fog blur on. What does fog blur look like? Okay. Yeah, you can see it's kind of getting foggy in the distance there. So if we change back to depth of field and distance blur, then how's it going to look? Done. Oh. Well, it still looks kind of foggy in the distance, to be honest. But anyway, I love depth of field and distance blur so much. We're gonna keep that. You can probably really tell the effect of the film grain shader here, actually, that you get in the cinematic version, because it's much more visible when it's dark. So I'm going to go back into the menus before some mobs come over and kill me, because I'm playing in survival right here. So back into the options. What else is there? Oh, we've been in environment, been in effects. There's a button for dynamic weather, which I haven't actually looked at yet. Dynamic weather off. Right. I don't know what this actually does, and I'm not going to cover it in this video because it's already getting quite long anyway, but this is something else you could try, which is apparently available. There's a new, a new set of stars in the sky, should you want them as well. And then in post-processing, here you have the camera noise, the film grain. That's the same thing. Chromatic aberration that makes things get little cyan/red auras off in the corner of your vision. Some people love that, some people hate it. Cinematic mode off, which is strange because I'm in the cinematic preset. Oh wait, let's see. What's this do? Oh, right. It just gives you borders on the screen. It makes things more widescreen. I bet that actually improves the frame rate very slightly when you do that. But we're going to turn that off for now. Maybe you want black borders. Maybe you want the whole cinematic experience. That's going a little too far for me. Vignette, that just darkens the corners of the screen slightly, which can be quite pretty looking. And like I say, in tone mapping, you can change the saturation. I think I mentioned that already. I find 1.5 is optimal. Maybe you just love really, really bright colors. It can go anywhere all the way up to 3, which I'm sure looks disgraceful. You can change the general level of exposure, brightness, the gamma, like where the midpoint of gray is, the midpoint of brightness, I suppose. You can turn the contrast up and down too, which means you can, essentially this shader pack is giving you an enormous amount of customizability to do whatever you want with it, really. But the main thing for me is it looks really pretty without making my frame rates as bad as Sonic Ether's unbelievable shaders do. And it has the motion blur, which stops the game from looking, you know, jerky and stuttery, even though you might not be getting, like, you know, a full 60 frames per second, or whatever the V-Sync frame rate is for your monitor. So, I think we might be about done for this video now. We've covered all of the options. We've had a look at what it looks like with various different settings. God, the film grain is kind of overpowering at night, huh? We've had a tutorial on how to install it and all of the requisite steps. So yeah, I think that's about all we need to do, really. So let me know if you have any questions or suggestions, or like maybe even other shaders that you think are even better that you'd like me to try. Click the like button if you happen to like the video. It helps out my channel rather a lot. And subscribe if, and only if, you'd like to see more. Let's go hug this guy. Hello. Oh, that's quite a tight hug. That's maybe a little much for me. I don't consent to this. Oh. Well, that's me told, isn't it? Okay, take care all. Bye-bye for now.